Yo, what up? Here we are once again. It's a happy Sunday, November the 2nd, 2 days after Halloween. Hopeful Resistance. And my name is Aaron the Quill. Welcome to our lovely Sunday podcast. I have been kind of chillaxing this week because of Halloween, and my kids are really excited, and things have been really fun. We're having a great time, and been trying my best to kind of follow the news. I mean, the bulk of everything that's going on right now is really just this government shutdown, which is definitely what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the government shutdown. We're going to talk about what was the president doing Halloween night while people were basically scheduled to lose some of their benefits. I think yesterday it was set to schedule the loss of some SNAP benefits for people. So curious to see where things go from here. I am smoking some ribs. They're out on the smoker right now. There's some baby back ribs we picked up, so I will have to, at some point, go out there and do some kind of final preparations for those. But in the interim, I'm ready to talk. I got some stuff we are going to take a hard look at. And I guess excited is not the right word. I don't want to say that I'm excited to talk about some of the things that are going to come up in today's episode, but we're going to definitely have the conversation. So I guess the first and foremost thing that we're going to talk about whenever we get moving here is, we're going to look at ACA. For those that aren't familiar with what the ACA is, it's the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare. I know that a lot of people, I've been seeing some generic confusion on people's understanding of what Obamacare is versus what the Affordable Care Act is. And I think that there is probably some weird, strange misunderstanding, particularly people in the MAGA camp not understanding that the ACA and Obamacare are the same thing. I think that's kind of strange to me in the sense that they've been driven to hate something like Obamacare while not hating things like the Affordable Care Act. I think I've verbatim seen people talking about the Affordable Care Act and saying things like, I love the Affordable Care Act. I love the Affordable Care Act, but I don't like Obamacare. And I just think it's like, what? Those are the same thing. You should know that those are the same thing. Those aren't two different things. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to look at the SNAP benefits thing that's definitely coming through. I also want to, because we've been on this kind of, I was on a Law and Order kind of streak that I want to kind of stay on as best I can. It's really kind of easy, I guess, to talk about how the administration loves to just basically disregard the law in various ways. And that's something that we're going to look at whenever it comes to SNAP, because one of the things that I found interesting was that the SNAP benefits were discontinuing on November 1st, but Obama, whenever he was president, had a really long shutdown, and people didn't lose SNAP benefits then. So why are we losing SNAP benefits now? And it's really just political leverage. It's the administration trying to use political leverage to force the Democrats' hand to open back the government. And then last thing I really want us to take a look at before we start talking about our action, what can we do like we do every episode? I want to take a look at people that are specifically talking about the changes to their premiums because of the ACA alterations that are being done, and how that is basically affecting people directly. So let's get started. We're going to start from the top here. We get us over to looking at our article. So the first thing that we're going to talk about under the ACA, the ACA, for those that aren't familiar, it uses a marketplace system. Okay, so basically what people are able to do is they're able to go to the marketplace, they're able to buy health insurance plans, and they're able to get lower premiums than they normally would because of government subsidies. So it effectively reduces how much people pay. And whenever we look at, okay, so what happens if we get rid of these subsidies, which is really what's controlling and what's leveraging the shutdown right now, is that this year, I think it's this year, the subsidies are scheduled to go away. And the Democrats are basically like, hey, we cannot let these subsidies go away because there are millions of Americans that depend on this. And if we make subsidies go away, their premiums are going to increase. And so they're like, we aren't going to agree to open up the shutdown until we agree that we're going to that we're going to keep these subsidies. So that's kind of I guess the biggest reason why the government is remaining shut down is that Democrats are basically saying, no, we're not going to open up the government until we can guarantee that these subsidies are going to be in place to protect Americans. The Republicans on the other side are trying to argue that that for some insane reason, they're trying to argue that it's to provide healthcare to illegal immigrants, which we talked about before. I know we've talked about it a number of times on the show. Illegal immigrants, undocumented migrants, are not able to collect Medicaid, Medicare. They're not able to access the ACA. It requires you to be an American citizen. It's a nonsensical argument. The best example that they have to actually support that argument is that California has a program that does allow undocumented migrants to receive medical care, but that's only in the state of California. That's not the United States as a whole. And if we're going to argue that they shouldn't be allowed to do that, well, whether you like it or not, California is the largest. I mean, they have the largest economy in the country, and they are basically subsidizing everybody else. As much as we don't like that, I mean, I live in Texas, and I grew up in Texas, and so Texans by nature, we have a competitive kind of edge of behavior that we like to follow, and so it's kind of like I really hate sometimes that California is like winning in some cases, but they are, and so clearly they're doing something correct out there. And we could argue that, well, it's cost of living in California is insane. You'd be absolutely right. Cost of living in Los Angeles is insane. It's crazy. However, they also have like a ton of wealthy celebrities. They have a ton of technocrats out there. I mean, it makes sense that there is like a massive amounts of wealth and taxing done in the state of California versus Texas. And Texas is definitely. I'm on Monday. I'm going to be taking my oldest. They just turned 18. We'll be taking them to vote for the first time. And one of the things we're going to be voting on is property taxes here in Texas, because Texas does have the highest property taxes in the United States. Anyways, I'm like derailing, but that's what we do here. We always derail. This is basically the bulk of what's keeping the government shut down. You can kind of see the key points they're talking about here at the top. I could say that I would include a lot of these links in the description, and sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. I highly encourage everybody to do their own research, and I don't mean go on Twitter and read or Truth Social and go see what the president or his cronies are saying. I mean, actually get out there and go and read, find articles. I guarantee that there's probably even some local Fox stations that are reporting this stuff accurately. One of the places that I also really like to encourage people to go to is what WTFHappenedToday.com. Matt, it's ran by one guy. His name is Matt. He regularly goes through and basically kind of gathers up the news of the day and provides sources for pretty much all of it from various news sources. So whether or not you like or don't like the news, you can always go check that out. I know that someone recently recommended Fark.com. I've not spent a lot of time there, so I can't say that it's credible. But one of the things that they touted is that it does a lot of, I guess, like both sides reporting. I tend not to follow a lot of both sides reporting because it tends to be underreported on either side depending on the issue. So something to just keep in mind, depending on which site you want to use to determine where you're going to get your accurate information. I, however, like to kind of go all over. You're going to see we're going to go through a lot of different points, and so that's what we've got up here. Anyways, back to what we were talking about. So, yes, this is like the bulk of the reason why we are currently in a government shutdown. So, the next thing that we're gonna go look at is this. Okay, why ACA tax credits for 22 million Americans are at the center of the government shutdown drama. It's important to look at So it basically comes down to a lot of things, right? The one thing about these types of issues is that they're not isolated to like a single point of failure. It's not like one thing that has led to these tax credits and why they are so important. And the solution, I guess, to the premiums increase, to the tax credits, etc., is a pretty complicated issue. Obviously, as a pragmatic progressive, that's a term that my mom recently came to me with that I thought was fantastic. What is a pragmatic progressive, you might ask? It's basically someone who I personally tend to identify as kind of a liberal, like a liberal conservative, I guess. There, where I in a lot of cases I would want to be more physically conservative, but that I have like liberal social policies, and but that's kind of shifted over time, especially given the current administration and the absolute batshit insanity of the things that they do, to where it's probably like I could kind of see the arguments for some of the more progressive policies that tend to be put forward. And so I say pragmatic progressive because I also recognize that the way our government functions doesn't always allow the hard push to create the kind of change that we would want rapidly. That the government is by design meant to work slowly. And I know we've talked about this in kind of early episodes, because I think there's a mindset breakdown where people really want things to get done quickly. And we're seeing the issue with that right now. It's the only way that things get done quickly is if you basically ram them through and no one pushes back on you. And so while that could be good in a lot of cases, it is also, as we're seeing, bad. It's not something that we would really want our government to do. We don't want our government to function the way that it's functioning. This is not normal, and we need to stop accepting it as normal. It's pretty fucked. Needless to say, so I went way off track because I want to talk about what does it mean to be pragmatic progressive, but let's bring it back around. So we're going to talk, so why ACA tax credits for 22 million Americans are at the center of the government shutdown drama. I hate that they use shutdown drama because it's really not, I guess it is kind of dramatic, but it's really just that the administration doesn't want to negotiate the subsidies. They're trying to just push through what they would call a clean bill without talking about the subsidies at all. And the Democrats are like, no, we need to talk about this. We postponed it back in March whenever you guys agreed that we would talk about it now. And now you don't want to talk about it again. We're going to get to the next thing and you're going to not want to talk about it again, and so on and so on and so on and so on. And we're never going to push the subsidies through, and they're going to die. And people are going to be left with absolutely insane premiums. So, sorry, I got people messaging me. So one of the thing that we need to look at is, so during the pandemic, right? This is back in 2020 and afterwards, there was the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, and thus where the subsidies for the ACA were basically enhanced. And there was like broader eligibility, so it includes things like households that were above 400% of the federal poverty level, and there were like lower out of pocket caps. And so as a result, the subsidies had to increase. And I want to say they increased pretty substantially. It was a pretty like generous increase in the subsidies as they were paid out. And this just basically allowed more people to get coverage. So now what you're looking at is like this article says, you have 22 million Americans total that are relying on ACA tax credits to receive insurance. That's the only way that they can afford it. Without those subsidies, people are not going to be able to afford insurance. And as we know, because of America's current medical system, if you don't have insurance, you might like, it is, you know what? Fuck it. It is arguably worse to almost die and survive than it is to just die, because, and that's fucked up. It's not right. It shouldn't, again, it's not normal, and it shouldn't be that way. It's crazy if you really think it through, that in a modern society, there are people that it would be better off if they were to die from an illness than it would be for them to get treatment for it. It reminds me of like this like crazy funny meme that I saw where it's like, yeah, universal healthcare is so difficult to figure out in 32 of the 33 developed countries that currently have it. or it's like, so yeah, anyway, I totally botched the meme, but it really is like that. If we could figure out universal healthcare, we could figure out how to kind of bypass these issues, and then we wouldn't, arguably, we wouldn't have to worry about the ACA subsidies. I remember it was, I want to say, and it's probably died now, and I would have to go look it up specifically, but I remember there was a time where the Koch brothers, their organization, went and did the research to find out, well, what if we just did Medicaid for all? And they had discovered that if we were to switch to a Medicaid for all program, right, get rid of the ACA and just provide Medicaid for all, we would actually wind up saving the American people something like $10 million or $10 billion. I want to say 10 billion or 10 trillion. Either way, we wind up saving 10 exponentially more than we're currently set to spend. And that was back in like 2020, and it was through 2030 they had done the math and the research to kind of come to this conclusion that if we just switch to Medicaid for all, then we would actually save the government money and thus ourselves money. And I always thought it was interesting that there was like this possibility that we would come up with this Medicaid for all program that would provide basic medical coverage to everybody and it just kind of like petered out, even though the Koch brothers did the research. And I always thought it was even more interesting whenever you considered that it was like the Koch brothers, because they're like huge Republican donors, that they were probably trying to prove that it wouldn't happen, and then or that it wouldn't save money, and then when they proved that it would save money, one, it was honorable for them to actually put out those results. But I thought it was interesting that nobody did anything with it. Not just the Republicans, like the Democrats didn't do anything with it. You could argue all kinds of things. Democrats are certainly trying to do something right now to save medical coverage for people, and that's all we can really focus on. But I do think it's an interesting prospect that what we could do is just switch to a Medicaid for all system, and we would be better off. people would have medical coverage for all kinds of things. So the next thing that we should look at, let me see. Let's get to the next one. Right, this health tracker. Okay, good, yeah. So was this one. So how much and why ACA marketplace premiums are going up in 2026. And we're going to deep dive into this a little later with like anecdote situations of people that are looking for that are basically looking and watching their premiums increase in real time. And a lot of it has to do, which again, we'll talk about, a lot of it has to do with the fact that like insurers don't know what's going to happen with the subsidies. So they're basing premiums off no subsidies. And then if the subsidies do come, their premiums could be lower, but we don't know because they're not renewing the subsidies. So because insurers, I guess it kind of goes with this. So insurers, they have to set rates for 2026 right now, and that's exactly what I just said. They're on pricing with uncertainty, and so that in turn makes this question way more urgent. And it's one of the reasons that Democrats are trying to like force the administration to come to the table. And they're trying to force House Republicans to come to the table and let's sit down and let's actually negotiate. And of course, the thing that I find really interesting is that the Republicans are saying, "Oh, well, this is the same bill that we already tried to pass." But yeah, but that's because you didn't need to pass the subsidies before because they're expiring. So the argument that, well, we already passed this, but why can't we pass it again? It doesn't work here because we need to pass something different. We can't just keep passing the same thing and ignoring the subsidies going away. They're going away. We have to renew them. Or else millions, like we just saw, 22 million Americans are going to see their premiums go absolutely fucking insane. So these are things that people need to be thinking about. So, okay. Again, there might be a point where I go and like post the articles for all the stuff that I talk about. It's just not always the case that I'm going to post the articles for the stuff that we're going to talk about. I'm going to pull them up and you can see where it's talking about and you can see the headlines, and then I'm going to kind of try to summarize some of it because I work full time. I get busy on Sundays. None of that is an excuse. I would love to just sit here and stream for 6 hours and we could go through article and read article. The thing that you should consider though is I've read a lot of these because otherwise I wouldn't post them for you guys. And so one of the things that I again encourage everybody to do is go and like track this stuff down. And that way you've got it, you can go and look at it, and it's really easy, to just find this stuff. Everybody is currently talking about it, and it's something we should talk about. So the next thing that we should look at is exactly what's at stake with sorry, I'm reading my notes. So it says what's at stake and why is it tied to the shutdown. So again, we talked about this. The subsidies are, that's one of the things we're going to look at later. I'll pull that up. Pull my notes back up. Okay. So this right here, why Obamacare prices could surge for millions next year. Kind of the same thing that I was just talking about, right? If so with the subsidies going away, the premiums are going to increase. That's exactly what I was just what I just said. But I just want everybody to see it's being reported in multiple places. We need to talk about the fact that this is really, really important, and that again, Obamacare, ACA, whatever you call it, it's all the same thing. And there are Americans, both MAGA Americans, Democrats, it doesn't matter. There are Americans in this country that rely on these subsidies to be able to afford health insurance, and the administration doesn't want to acknowledge it, or if they do want to acknowledge it, they're going to wait until the subsidies are gone. So that way they can point to how bad the ACA is, which to me only comes off as petty Trump nonsense. He hates Obama for a reason that we can only guess, is because of the 2012 Correspondents' Dinner. But if that's not the case, he just really doesn't like him. And he'll say it's because he destroyed America with literally no basis. We talked about this, I want to say it was 2 weeks ago. We did an entire breakdown of the two administrations and the pros and cons of what each one was doing or wasn't doing. And we talked about it again last week when we talked about law and order. And functionally speaking, Obama was a much more effective president. Love him or hate him, he was a more effective president than the current president. So one of the things that I feel like it is that it's either a competitive mindset. Trump always wants to win, and so he's willing to literally crush anything that Obama controlled because he wants to be better than Obama in every way. It's why we push so hard for Nobel Prizes. It's why we push so hard for getting rid of the ACA. It's why we like mock and do the dumb auto pin, right? In the Biden thing. Anything that's connected to people that he has arbitrarily decided he doesn't like for one reason or another, he is just going to keep doing. And maybe it's to trigger the libs, maybe it's not, but it's all nonsensical bullshit that doesn't amount to anything, because legislatively speaking, Trump is an incredibly ineffective president and has demonstrated that both in his first term when he passed literally almost no bills to now, which is the same thing. We're not passing any legislation. So yeah, we're just trying to crush Obamacare. And one of the ways that they could do that is obviously by letting the subsidies die, letting people's premiums go absolutely batshit insane, and then pointing to it and be like, it's because of the ACA. We have to get rid of it so that way we can garnish public support and then hopefully push it out. So one thing to remember is that while the enhanced subsidies are set to expire, okay, the underlying premium tax credit mechanism would remain. And so one of the key questions is how large and how long are that the enhanced portion will last. And then when we're talking about the enhanced portion, we're talking about that American Rescue Plan that I talked about earlier from 2021. So we have a increase in what those subsidies should be. That law is in place. What happens if the subsidies themselves go away? Because the increase is based off of what the current subsidies are. So if we don't renew the subsidies, it leaves us in this really, not that it matters because the administration doesn't give two shits about what the laws say, but what happens to the insurance premiums or the enhancements if the subsidies for the premiums go away? Because now we can't enhance nothing. So that's another question that is not being answered. So it's something that we need to be thinking about, okay? So some of this is local stuff that I think it's worth looking at. So this is, again, we're talking about the health insurance. This is specifically, though, talking about what the Democrats are trying to do, okay? Because many Democratic lawmakers are basically working on any continuing resolution. They're not working on, they're basically, I guess they are. They're trying to force a continuing resolution or a spending bill that will reopen the government, but that it extends the subsidies, which is what they've been arguing the whole point, right? They've argued that we won't vote to reopen unless they include a subsidy extension. which is something that the administration is not trying to do. They're trying to like basically push away from that. And so that is the real reason that we're shut down. As much as the admin loves to point and be like, oh no, the Democrats, it's a Democrat shutdown. It's a Democrat shutdown. Why isn't the deal maker, Trump the deal maker, why isn't he showing up to the table to try and negotiate this bill? Like, if the only thing that the Democrats want is the subsidies, why isn't the deal maker, if it's the only thing that's keeping everything else from reopening? It's the troops weren't, I guess the troops did get paid, but the troops not getting, the troops got paid. You know who didn't get paid? TSA. TSA didn't get paid. I know that there were some of the civilian logistics sides of the military didn't get paid. There are lots and lots of government workers not getting paid. We made sure the military got paid, which is good. I mean, I was in the military during a shutdown. Believe it or not, you tend to still see your paycheck come in. Mostly because, at least for me, I banked with Navy Federal Credit Union, and they have a program in place that if you don't get paid, they basically front you the money, and then whenever you get back pay, because you will get back pay, the government always pays its debts. Even if it takes them forever sometimes, you will get back pay. And whenever you get the back pay, they basically just take that and as payback. So you still, for a lot of people, you still see your paychecks, because Navy Federal Credit Union, which most people in at least the Navy and Marine Corps utilize Navy Federal Credit Union. I know USAA, which is another big, active duty military veteran credit union. They have a program in place like that. I would be curious if some of the larger banks had programs like that for their service members, where if you're a service member and you have an active duty checking account, that you would be able to receive some kind of pay, even if the government is shut down. So it's good that they still paid people. Obviously, that's excellent. They spent a shit ton of money doing it, and they had to move some other funds around. But it's good that the military still got paid. However, there are still a lot of people that didn't. So, and yeah, okay. It's very obvious that I'm going to be like really hardcore tangenting off track. So I'm doing my best. Thank you. Thanks to everybody who's sticks around and is here for all of the shenanigans. This is the show. It's what we do. So yeah. So the Democrats are trying to basically push to keep the government open, and the administration is not budging. They're not negotiating at all. To me, it comes off as like it's like you have a. It really is. It's like you have a toddler that wants to get their way, and you're like, okay, well, for me, I don't parent my kids like this, but some people do, where they're like, okay, well, what if we do this? And then they're like, no. I'm like, well, what if we do this? No, I just want to do this one thing. That's all I want. I don't want to do anything else. I just want to do this. And then they're like, okay, well, we're not going to do that. So you need to come and we'll sit down and we can chat and figure out how we're going to move forward. And the toddler's like, no. And so that's kind of where we're at. Is one side has said repeatedly, this is the only thing we want is this subsidy extension, and we're not going to reopen unless we get it. And the other side is basically saying, okay, well, we're not going to do that, so it's your fault that we're shut down because we're not doing it. And that's not how this works. This shutdown, by definition, is not a democratic shutdown. This is the administration refusing to come to the table and have a conversation. And they can argue all day and night about how, oh, this is no different than the ones we passed before. And while that is true, the ones that we had before didn't need the subsidy extension to pass. So of course there was no need to have that discussion. And maybe we could have been a little more proactive, and maybe it is all political, all political leveraging and back and forth. Probably, because that's politics. That's how this stuff works. But at the end of the day, one side does have the, hey, this is what we need, and if you give us this, then we'll reopen. And the other side is like, no, we're not giving you that, so then we're not reopening, and it's your fault because we're not going to give it to you. So, that's actually the next thing that we're going to get to. I found this and I thought it was a pretty good. Okay. So what's happening? The U.S. government is shut down due to failure of Congress to pass a funding bill. Central issues, ACA subsidy cuts and raising. Okay. At stake, enhanced premium tax credits under ACA that help 22 million people get affordable healthcare coverage. Without them, cost could be doubled. The ACA enhanced subsidies expire end of 2025. Marketplace health plan premiums may increase more than 100%. And I need to pause this. I'm going way fast. I can read pretty quick, but that's pretty quick. So, yeah, let's go. Sorry, let me get okay. Yeah, so a recent spending bill includes over $1 trillion in proposed Medicaid cuts over the next decade, which of course we've talked about that in previous episodes. New work requirements and funding shifts would make access harder for low-income Americans. All of this is a part of that big, beautiful bill that everybody just really, really loves to talk about. Excuse me. So who's affected? Low and middle income families, people relying on ACA marketplace plans, states with non-expanded Medicaid will feel impact most, and premium tax credits equals big risk. This is a really great. That's why I thought this was so fantastic. This is just a really well done kind of synopsis of everything that's going on. So annual cost, average ACA marketplace subscriber currently pays about $888 a year. Without subsidies, that could rise to as much as $1,900 a year in 2026. So that is for some people a pretty dramatic jump, right? That's double. I've seen people that were paying this $888 post some things on, and we're going to talk about this here coming up after we talk about Snap stuff, have gone from paying $888 a year to as much as like $60,000 a year. Like going from paying $800 a month to being expected to pay $5,200 a month for the same coverage. So it's pretty fucking crazy. Why it escalated. Republican leadership wants, I love the way, this is the only part that drives, Republican leadership wants funding without ACA subsidy extension. Democrats demand subsidies stay and Medicaid cuts reversed. Federal shutdown triggered. And then I don't know what all this is. It's fine, whatever. But the thing that I find really interesting is they'll say Republican leadership. The administration. Trump and his goons. That's who it is. That is who wants it. Okay? It may not even be Trump himself, because Trump, for lack of a better term, is just a fucking puppet president. He is an idiot and easily manipulated. And basically, if you want to get really technical, I would argue, I would say that right now we're looking at people like Stephen Miller, people like JD Vance. These are the people that are actually running our government. And that Trump is just the CEO. He goes out, spends millions of dollars playing golf, makes billions of dollars on his cryptocurrencies, and then just shows up and has executive orders explained to him and then signs them. He's an idiot. He has no idea what the fuck he's doing, how to fucking lead the country at all. So, anyways, yes. Moving on, what could happen? Lots of coverage for millions, surging out-of-pocket costs, insurers dropping out of exchanges, and many simply go without insurance, which is the biggest risk we have right now because, again, no insurance in the United States with our current health system means, in some cases, you would be better off just dying to an illness than seeking treatment for it. So yeah, possible fixes. This is why I like this one. Congress could extend the premium tax credits, reverse Medicaid cuts, or pass emergency funding that protects healthcare subsidies. What you can do? This is the whole show. This is exactly what we always get to at the end of every episode. What can you do? So if you buy ACA insurance, check your plan's notes, explore state assistance, budget for higher premiums, contact your local representatives, stay informed. So the thing about contacting your local reps, again, we talk about it every episode. There are so many ways that Americans could contact the representatives that they may not realize they could do. And if people knew better how they could contact the people that they've elected to represent them, I feel like it would create a lot more political engagement across the board. So, yes, contact your fucking reps. No matter even if they're like mine and they're not going to listen to anything you have to say, contact them anyway because they need to feel that pressure. So again, that's a really good one. I liked it again just because of everything it's got, but this was a good one right there at the end, right? Fantastic stuff. So Okay. One of the things that we should also look at is that Republicans, or I guess it's really not just Republicans, because there's some other, I think there are some Democrats that have sided on the Republican side of opening up, but I don't think it's because they're against the credits. That being said, so opponents of extending credits like to argue that without reforms, the program could contribute to affordability problems or unsustainable spending, and thus they prefer to separate the subsidy question from the immediate funding resolution. I think it's a arguably good reason to want to have a separate conversation, open up the government, and then let's talk about it. I think the concern is that they won't talk about it, and that because there's not a plan in place, you're going to see a lot of Americans lose coverage, which is not something that we want. And if we're going to talk about the issue with affordability, I mean, they could. This is the thing I find really interesting. Yes, we live in a capitalist society, but it's meant to be regulated. So if we're looking at these insurance premiums, I mean, some of that is because the economy is not in good shape, and so yeah, they're having to increase costs that way they can provide coverage. But there are also instances where they don't provide coverage, although the ACA helps with that kind of stuff. So this is what I mean. It's like it is really kind of simple. We could just pass this up with the subsidies, or at least emergency funding for the subsidies, but they don't want to do that. And why wouldn't they want to do that? And they'll say, "Oh, it's because they want to provide insurance to illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants cannot collect ACA. Illegal immigrants can't collect Medicaid. Like, there's no world in which undocumented migrants, illegal immigrants, are able to collect these services. These are Americans that collect these services. You don't slash taxes. Like, we're gonna go down a rabbit hole if I start ranting about it. So, okay. So let's keep going. Moving on. So again, we looked at this article, and we're back. I just kind of opened these up as we go point by point because I have all the links, and so I just reopen them so that way I have the link open for the thing that we're talking about. So what are the consequences if the subsidies expire? And so we already talked about this. Why do I have this twice? Well, I made this up over a couple of days, so that's probably the reason why. Okay. So, this one I thought was interesting. Okay. This is the one that I want to talk about. So there are states that did not expand Medicaid. And I would like to point out that most of the states that don't have expanded Medicaid are often Republican led. Or for people with incomes that are above 400% of the poverty level are basically going to see the biggest hits. Okay. In these subsidies going away. Okay, because if you are above the poverty level, so that means you really do rely solely on ACA for your coverage, or employer provided, which is the other thing. The ACA does touch employer provided. I will say I just recently renewed my insurance through my employer, and my premium didn't go crazy up because, again, my employer is the one that argues that, that basically makes that negotiation. But the ACA by design is the same thing. It's just that the negotiation was with the government. And so you'll see there are some instances, and I don't know that I fall on this, just to be completely honest, where you have employer insurance that is through ACA. So the government subsidizes the insurer, the employer subsidizes part of it, and then I pay a portion, right? Or you pay a portion, whoever pays a portion. And that is how they're able to afford it. If you see the subsidies go away and your employer doesn't make up the difference, then the difference falls in your lap. And then you're seeing drastic increases in the premiums. So we'll see. Maybe I should go double check. I haven't seen an email from them, and I already signed the agreement, so maybe they can't increase it. I don't know. So it's probably something I should think about, right? And then we're not just going to look at the people that are being affected on social media. It's going to be like, I'm going to come on next week and be like, guys, my fucking insurance premium went crazy. I hope not. So yes, this is the final point I have in here is that the argument in the subsidy is that the subsidies aren't just individual pocketbook issues. If fewer people can afford coverage, enrollment falls, and the risk pool worsens. Premiums continue to rise. Providers lose revenue, and uninsured numbers go up, which is actually probably the biggest thing if you really think about it. So if you have a number of people that drop the insurance because they can't afford to pay it anymore, well, then the providers are going to lose money, and if the providers lose money, well, no business in the United States, no business in the world likes to lose money. So what are they going to do? Well, they're going to turn around and they're going to increase premiums so that way they can keep the money coming in. So what happens? You wind up in this looping cycle of nonstop loss, where the coverage goes down, where the premiums go up, providers losing revenue, people start going out of business. The entire insurance, I mean, you want to see how far down the rabbit hole, you go far enough down the rabbit hole and the entire insurance infrastructure collapses And we could argue, oh, it was all Obama's fault. No, it's not. It's not. It's not. If you want to argue with me why it's not Obama's fault, without the ACA, we would be in a way worse place because because of how it managed the premiums increase. So just throwing out there. So all of this is to say that the subsidy extension is one of the key demands of the funding fight. Because Congress hasn't agreed to the full funding bill, this policy piece is being used as leverage, and the government is shut down. Right now, I think we're just in a partial lapse because we did open and now we're shut back down. Again, the standoff itself is not about agencies operating. It's about the big policy items like healthcare subsidies. So healthcare subsidies, mostly for the ACA, because I think at this point the Democrats have basically said, okay, we'll talk about the Medicaid later, but the subsidies have to continue. We have to keep the subsidies. They're a much bigger deal. So I, real quick, need to go and I'm going to switch back. I need to go and take my ribs out of the smoker, smother them in barbecue sauce, and then put them back on for another 45 minutes to an hour. I will be right back. I'm going to make sure I throw this up on the idling screen so everybody understands where it is that I've gone. Otherwise, you're watching, somebody shows up and starts asking questions, and you're able, maybe just throw it in the chat, hey, he went to go barbecue sauce his ribs real quick. So give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Okay, Mike. Thank you. Thank you all for your patience. Okay, so where were we? Okay, so we just finished talking about ACA. Also, the ribs, they look fantastic. I started them at noon. I smoked them for about 2 hours, just right on the grill with the dry rub. For those that aren't familiar with cooking ribs, you gotta like peel off this membrane, and then you pat them dry really good, and then you dry rub them. And I smoked them for about 2 hours, and then I put them in some tinfoil with some butter and some spices, and I just kind of wrapped them real tight, and I put them on for another 2 hours, and they just got through that. So now I cover them in barbecue sauce, and I do them for like another hour. I'm pretty excited for them because we've been working on it, and kind of a start to November fun that we're having a bit here. So anyway, so we just finished talking about ACA subsidies. What's the bulk of the reason to shut down? Now we're going to talk about, I guess, what is kind of the big thing that the most recently big thing that comes from the shutdown, which is the SNAP benefits issue. So what are SNAP benefits? I think it's, so if you're not familiar with the SNAP program, I probably should have kept a thing up. Oh yeah, we're going to go through. We're going to talk about, we're going to definitely talk about this. But what is SNAP? Okay, I'm going to pull this up for you guys. What is SNAP? Okay. If you're not familiar with this is basically something that, excuse me, that the Biden administration expanded on as well. But it's basically food stamps. So the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, federal program that provides monthly benefits. So that's the AR review. If we get down here, if you really want to dive deep and look at it here, this is what we're looking at. So food benefits for low-income families. So basically, this is what people are able to look at or utilize in order to get food assistance. I know when I was in the military, we relied on SNAP benefits for some of my earlier ranks because I was we were a single income home with a child. So, and I was not making enough money. So we utilized SNAP benefits to kind of bridge the gap for a little while until eventually I made enough money to kind of get out from under it. Not everybody has that opportunity. I count my blessings. It's definitely something that I was fortunate enough to be able to do. There are a lot of people that are unable to, either because of their age or they're disabled, or there's those mentally disabled, physically disabled. They're single income homes with single parents. There are so many. I'm trying to think of like off the top of my head examples. There are a lot of families that rely on this assistance, not because they're not working, not because they're too lazy to do anything about it, but because they are just incapable in real ways of getting out there and improving their situation. And so things like SNAP and Medicaid and ACA are programs that they rely on to meet their basic needs. And this is the United States of America. A lot of us are fortunate enough, like me, like some of the people watching the show, fortunate enough to be able to afford those things. And I've got no problem with paying into a tax pool that enables less fortunate people to kind of be able to survive. It's not maybe I'm just crazy. Some people would definitely say I'm crazy, but to me, it seems like I'm not even Christian, but it seems like the good Christian thing to do. So anyways, let's go back. Let's talk about one of the things that, again, I talked about this whenever we were first starting. One of the things that I found kind of interesting was that back whenever Obama was president and we had a lapse in funding because of a government shutdown, I think I talked about this on like Threads or something where it was like, okay, I think Obama has like the longest consecutive shutdown, right? He has like the longest shutdown stretch of any president. And I think it was something like 34 days. We're coming up on, 30 days, which is why the SNAP benefits were ending. And I just find it interesting that whenever we came up on the 30 days, that SNAP benefits were ending under this administration, but they didn't end under the Obama administration. And it just kind of made me go like, wait, why? Why on earth does the SNAP benefits, end under one administration, but not under another? I don't understand. So again, I deep dove into it a little bit, and I still don't have the answer. To me, it just comes because the administration is choosing not to do something because of the funding lapse. Right? You have the United States Department of Agriculture planned to suspend or severely delay SNAP benefits starting November 1st, and they cited there was a lack of full appropriation, which is basically nonsensical because we were able to fund the program during another long-term shutdown under a Democratic president, but now it's like people have the memory spans of goldfish, and it's like something that would have happened under Obama's run as president, or something that would have happened under Biden's run as president, because again, Obama was president 20 years ago. Irrelevant, right? Well, I just want to point out irrelevant. It's not totally relevant, I guess. It's the only example, though, that we have of this length of shutdown, and we didn't lose SNAP benefits then. Moving on. So all that being said, to me, it's just the administration doesn't want to pay. Moving forward, right? You know what? I'm gonna do a sanity checking on. Ooh. Right, I'm not crazy. I feel like. Right, okay. I just wanted to make sure. Because the SNAP program is old. I mean, it's like real old. It's like the 60s, I think. And then I want to say that it was under Biden that he passed some kind of enhanced subsidies for the SNAP program. Right? Biden SNAP benefits. Because I remember he passed something, and I'm trying to like blank in on what bill. Maybe it was just a part of. I'm just trying to like, because we were coming out of COVID, and I know that Biden did some more kind of some enhanced things whenever he was president. That was a part of that like American Rescue Plan, that he basically like extended SNAP benefits to kind of make sure that people still had food. and I was like, I'm pretty sure, right? Anyway, the big beautiful bill basically kinked all that anyway. I was just trying to make sure that, like, again, I was sanity checking myself because I'm over here like, wait, what did Biden do with SNAP? Because Obama had the shutdown, SNAP benefits didn't end. Biden actually enhanced SNAP benefits because of COVID. So anyway, this administration is choosing not to do that, and then they're citing nonsense. They're citing nonsense so that way because again, they don't want to take the blame for the shutdown. Even though it's their fucking shutdown, they don't want to take the blame for it, so they're trying to pass the buck as much as they can onto the Democrats, because everybody's going to blame them anyway, because, you know, as the saying goes, if the Republicans do something, it's the Democrats' fault. If the Democrats do something, it's the Democrats' fault. It doesn't matter. Everything is the Democrats' fault. Not this time, motherfuckers. We got to put our foot down. This shit's not normal. It's not okay. We need to stop saying that. Anyway, so there are two federal judges. I think one of them is Massachusetts Judge, I'm going to totally butcher your name, and I do apologize, Idra Talwani, and the other one is from Rhode Island, which is Judge John J. McConnell Jr. They issued rulings ordering the government to continue funding SNAP using contingency and emergency funds. The Massachusetts ruling basically called the suspension unlawful and said that the USDA must use those contingency funds to keep benefits going. That's our Washington Post. That's what this one is covering here. And the Rhode Island ruling required at least the contingency funds to be used and asked for an update. So that is from this one. It's this one, yes, because this is the LA. With the LA report article. So that's via ABC7 Los Angeles. That's it. That's the one. So again, they're pushing forward. I know that there are also states that are suing. So we have states that are suing the federal government on October 28th. Yep. There was 25 states plus DC filed a lawsuit against the USDA alleging the administration illegally withheld food aid funding SNAP during the shutdown. The state of New York joined a lawsuit arguing that the USDA refused to tap into its $6 billion in contingency funds that were meant specifically for this kind of time lapse. So this is actually, it's funny. A lot of the lawsuits started answering my question. Was like, okay, why is it that SNAP continued with Obama, but it's not continued with Trump? And the answer is, well, there were contingencies there are contingencies within the program that the USDA is choosing not to dip into. Like, and again, let's everybody ask ourselves, who runs the USDA? Who's in control of the government? Yeah, the Trump and his cronies. Okay, they are in charge of the government right now. And actually, I don't even know. I'll admit, I don't even know who. I know that it's an appointed position, but who runs the USDA right now? I don't even. So Secretary of Agriculture, which right now is Brooke Rollins. This is Brooke Rollins. You know, like, you see whenever the administration was appointing certain positions, and depending on who you are as a person, you paid close attention to particular positions, whether because they directly affected your industry or because you have some kind of personal, you know, not what's the word? You have kind of like some personal interest, right? Either because of your history. So like for me, I was definitely paying attention to who was going to be appointed Secretary of Health, who was going to be appointed Secretary of Defense. Those were positions that were important to me because Secretary of Health, I have kids that are on the spectrum, and I knew that RFK was going to be like a big pick, and I knew RFK's positions on people with that are on the spectrum, and I was like, oh my god, fucking RFK is going to be the Secretary of Health. Sickening. Secretary of Defense for me is because of my background. Obviously, I was in the Marines for 10 years, so I was really curious who was going to be SecDef, and when I heard that Pete Hegseth was up there, I was like, are we really appointing someone who was grossly incompetent or incapable of this position into this position? And the answer is yes. I am a regular, I very, very regularly criticize Pete Hegseth because he is an incompetent SecDef. It is a complete insult to the office that he is the Secretary of Defense. But anyway, Brooke Rollins, this is our Secretary of Agriculture. She's in control of USDA, and like pretty much all of the current admin's cabinet is she's just a goon. She's just a sycophant goon. That's it. She doesn't, whatever the president wants, which the president wants, whatever Stephen Miller wants, whatever JD Vance, the president is, whatever the administration wants, these people do. That's it. There's no second pushback. There's no maybe this. No, these people, if the administration wants it, these people do. And so here we are again. Somebody, yet another crony doing crony shit. Okay, so that's why they're being sued. Man, going and coming back, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna get dialed back in. The going and coming back, it just threw me through a loop because I'm really excited about my ribs. Okay, ready. We're gonna lock in. Let's continue on. So yes, you have states that are suing. So that is, let's see this. Yeah, right here. So we got 25 states that are suing the Trump admin over withholding food and funding, which includes nearly 42 low-income Americans that are going to lose food benefits. That was yesterday. Do we want to know what the president was doing whenever all that happened? Here, I'll show you. I probably should have switched over this sooner. My mistake. It's okay. So the Trump admin was withholding food while they were withholding food and aid funding. I would like to show you what the administration was doing while that was happening. So let's see if I can open this with what I want to open it with. Because I think there's a way. Yeah, I'm going to try like this. This is what the admin was doing. This is at the Mar-a-Lago party that was happening Halloween night. See, just keeps going. We're just doing a big dance party. They called it a Great Gatsby. Okay, that's not the only example. Here's another example. This is what they were doing. All right, here we are. So, this, you know, they don't give a fuck about the Americans that need this, okay? There are no shits given at all. Okay, they're out there having a big party. You know, we wonder why the administration wants a fucking ballroom. It's so we can have big parties while other people are starving. Anyway, this is an article that we were just talking about this. So we have the 25 states that sued. New York joined the lawsuit, basically citing some of the same things. And what else we got? Oh yeah, so the complaint from New York states that shutting off SNAP benefits will cause deterioration of public health and well-being. Ultimately, the states will bear costs associated with these. So that is what this is talking about. 25 states sue Trump administration over SNAP food stamps freeze during shutdown. Okay. So let's move on. So right here. Judge says she'll likely order Trump administration to send SNAP funds to states. This is basically where we need to see the follow through here. Okay. This admin hates the law. I'm regularly amused by how much the admin, I talked about this last week, how much the admin loves to tout law and order and then is confused by law and order whenever they themselves have to be held to that standard. Okay. It's fucking nonsensical to me. Okay. So again, I just talked about this. So the states claim that the USDA has access to sufficient contingency emergency funding, anywhere between there's $5 billion in the contingency fund, or about $5 billion, and about $23 billion in additional reserve, which would continue the benefits. And the USDA argues that these funds cannot legally be used to cover a funding lapse in appropriations. Is basically what they're saying, which is why there's a judge that's like pushing through, like, no, you 1000% can. That's why the money's there. Fucking use it. It's already been budgeted. We already looked at this article. So yeah, let's see. Okay, come on, Guardian. Thank you. Trump administration blocked from suspending SNAP benefits for millions of Americans. Okay, I just want to show that there's like really a lot of follow through here. Okay, states, food banks, and other advocates are basically at this point like bracing for significant disruption in how low-income people are going to access food while this gets sorted out. So as much as there is a big push back against the admin trying to claim, no, we can't pay it, it's also worth noting that there are tons of people that are stepping up and pushing back on that argument. Like, no, sorry, fuck you, pay the program. All right. Again, sorry, we're dialing back in. I keep apologizing only because I know people are showing up here. You want to want to have these conversations. You want to talk about the news. We want to talk about ACA. We want to talk about the SNAP benefits. We really want to talk about the what the shutdown and the effect of it overall is. So I am trying to make sure that I'm dialed back in. Let's take a look though. Excuse me. Oh man, I've been picking up. Oh yeah, so another, I guess, off-topic tangent. Once Halloween ends, we usually wait a little bit before we do this, but once Halloween ended this year, we leaned into the memes and just decided to go ahead and start putting up Christmas decorations. And I know that a lot of you are probably going to unsubscribe on that alone, but wait, hear me out. So they used to be that we would wait until basically the weekend of Black Friday. So you'd have like Black Friday and then Saturday, Sunday, we would put up our decorations. I am also the kind of person that really doesn't like having my decorations up after Christmas, right? I have neighbors that love to keep their decorations up until God knows when. I mean, they keep them up a long time. And I could think like in July, some of my neighbors still have their Christmas decorations up, which is just insane. I really am not that guy. So I like to take them down basically the weekend after Christmas. I like to go out and take them down. And so what would happen is I would put my decorations up and they would be up for a month and then I would be taking them down. And I didn't really get to like enjoy the Christmas spirit that putting up decorations in my home kind of caused. Like, we would just have all this great fun with Christmas time, right? It's so jolly, it's so happy, especially with the current state of events. It's nice to just have like this little haven of joy in your life, which I encourage everybody to have in one way or another. But our way of doing it this year was setting up for Christmas. So already we are 2 days after Halloween, and I have all of my Christmas decorations up. I'm gonna be finishing putting them up. So, but we were up. I wasn't up like super early with the time change. I was up probably later, arguably. But we got up and around 10 o'clock started putting up Christmas decorations. So that's why I'm yawning. It's because I've been putting up decorations all day. But no, it looks great. I'm really excited to have everything on. One of the things I really love is having the Christmas tree out in our not living room. It's by the window, but it lights up like the whole space right outside my office. So if I stay up late to play games or whatever, and then I go out, it's just like a nice calming night light to just kind of brighten up the space. And again, it just makes it feel joyous. So anyway, back to the topic at hand, the reality in which we need to discuss. I said earlier in the show that I was going to pull up real world examples from social media, so that way people would just kind of see that there's some anecdotes out there of people. Excuse me again. Oh, sorry. Hang on. Of people, basically anecdotal examples of people that are either losing coverage completely because they can't afford it, or are suffering from the premium increases just in general. So let's take a look. I got a couple here. So let's start with this one. This is on Reddit. This is under Obamacare. Again, Obamacare and ACA are the same thing. I said that earlier. I'm going to say it again. Okay. So this one right here. We are 60 and 62, live in Washington State. We have a silver plan. Our current premium is $2,726, of which we receive a federal subsidy of $1,409 and are responsible for $1,317 per month. We each have a $2,000 deductible plus copays for most visits. I haven't audited our healthcare use last year, but we are probably received about $2,000 in insurance payments and spent around $1,500 out of pocket on doctor visits. Our new premium will be $4,103, an increase of over 50% because of the cliff being re-implemented next year. We are income restricted to $84,000, which includes what we spend on all federal and property taxes, about 20% of the $84K. We are still, if we are to still receive any ACA subsidies. If we were to pay this new premium and receive the same federal subsidy as we currently receive, our share of the annual $49,236 premium would be $32,328, which represents almost half of our remaining post-tax income. Clearly, this is untenable for us. Not sure what we will do. We'll know more tomorrow whenever the new plan pricing is available, but we will not be continuing on our current silver plan. So this is, again, and like this is just, it's anecdotal. It's a single example, and it's on the internet. Yeah, maybe it's bullshit. Maybe. I would doubt it, because it's not like this story is unconnected or this person is being hyperbolic or blowing it way out of proportion. They are talking about a real world. This is a real world example of people that rely on ACA coverage that are basically gonna not be able to afford any coverage at all. And at their age, like 60, 62, people need coverage. Like, it's insane to not have coverage, right? Right. So that's one example. This is an example from the New York Times. Everybody knows I normally have the New York Times up and going. Oh, wait, why is this? No, wait, where's my New York Times article? Why do I feel deceived right now? No. Because I haven't deceived. Why did it copy that? That's weird. There we go. Higher Obamacare prices become public in dozens of states. So what this one actually provides a specific example further down in the article. I went through and read this, where you have a family of 4 in Maine. Okay, they're making $130,000 a year, and they will have their premiums increase by about $16,100. So you have we talked about the 60-year-old couple already. Okay, you're going to see tons of other premium increases across the board. Again, the article talks about all this. Where you looking at like premiums in Kentucky going up by $23,700, premiums in Nevada going up by $18,100, Minnesota by $15,500, and Maryland by $13,700. The reason why these jumps are so significant and why it's important to talk about state to state is because cost of living varies, right, across states. Like some states have lowers and some states have higher. So these jumps basically become untenable. Like people can't afford coverage for they can't afford their insurance. And this is why the Democrats are demanding that the Republicans extend the subsidies. Period. Like we're not going to agree to open up the government. You people need to come to the table and we need to negotiate this now because it matters now. We're not going to push it through out till next year whenever premiums are going to go up and then you guys can blame the ACA for the premiums increase. No, it's because the subsidies are going to die. So, yeah. There we go. All right, here we go. We got another one. Come on. Oh, it's down here. That's why. I'm going to copy this. Is this the same one? This is the same one. Let me... you can tell I'm jumping around on my notes here. Okay. If you're in the U.S. and use Affordable Health Care Act, how much are your premiums going up in 2026? And so a lot of people said no subsidies. This person pays $750 a month to $950 a month. Minnesota Bronze Plan with an $8,500 deductible. That's crazy. There's no idea. Won't know until I check on 11/1 once they are posted on the marketplace. But I do know my insurance. I currently have the deductibles are out of pocket maximum. Both went up $1,000. I'm guessing the premium won't be lower either. Because mine will increase from $260 a month to $760 a month. The only way I could hope to pay that is if I get rid of my car. That is a 200% increase. That is insane. Okay. I'm in Georgia. My subsidy will be going away. I will go from $470 a month to $922 a month for my bronze plan, but with a higher deductible. It's especially painful as all I ever do is get a physical once a year. Isn't it crazy that people have to have insurance just to get a physical once a year? That like the physical one, like getting a physical once a year in Georgia would cost more on its own than paying that monthly. But again, it's not just that, right? Like insurance insurance as a whole is a thing that like you need to have, and if it basically you want it, and you want it because you don't. What is it? It's not. It's like a. I'm totally spacing on the phrasing because I use this all the time. It's like you want to have it and not need it, then need it and not have it. That's the saying. So it really is one of those things. So this is somebody else talking about. Got my notice on my ACA premium for 2026 with a 13% increase. I pay the full health insurance premium for an individual ACA Silver plan and MA, no subsidy. New premium for 2026 will be $987.54, which is a 13% increase for me. Ridiculous for such a crummy plan. High deductible HMO with a limited network that pays nothing out of network. Looks like I will be switching to a cheaper bronze plan. Again, this is not one, and I went through because one of the things that we talk about a lot is social media as a superpower. We talked about some of the earlier episodes. So this is somebody. So in northern Minnesota, some people will see their health insurance premiums double if congressional Republicans refuse to act. This is in somewhere in Minnesota, a family of four could see their monthly premiums increase more than 140%. So from less than $200 to $470. So this is, from as far as I could tell, the same plan, right? UCare Silver 2. This is a $35 copay with a $30. So this is a lower copay, which would explain a bit of the jump. Okay, generic drugs, but oh no, that's a copay, not deductible. My bad. So So we're looking at a lower copay, more on generic drugs, and look at the deductible difference. This last year, their deductible is only $4,800 for 140 with $195 a month premium versus a $7,000 deductible. So we're not quite doubled, but like 50% more basically on the deductible, and their out of pocket also went up, and they're like that is like, this is the problem. This is what the Democrats are fighting against, okay? Just so everybody understands why I'm even talking about this shit. It's because this shit matters, okay? Here's someone that was on Threads today that was basically pointing out that in 2026, they're going to start having to pay $5,144.62 for a month, for a monthly payment. That's not an annual, that's a monthly payment. That is $60,000 a year. That is batshit insane. That insane. The only thing I'll say here is we don't see what plan they have. Not that it matters. This increase is insane. That is an insane amount to pay annually. We don't even know, and that I would say is part of the problem with this number is we don't even know what their deductible is. We don't know what their deductible is. We don't know what their copays are. We don't know what their out-of-pocket is. We don't know shit, and they're having to pay that monthly. They're definitely going to have to either drop it or switch plans. Period. And finally, we'll take a look over here because I really liked this chart. So it says many complained about premiums when they were subsidized. Now they see what they look like unsubsidized. I guess it was affordable after all. That's such a great argument. The real reason they won't fund the subsidies is because the ACA got too popular with record enrollment. You can't kill something people need easily. They want you to hate it. The ACA isn't just a market. It's the healthcare policy for a nation that holds insurance companies accountable. And now people see what the fight is about for Americans. So this again, ACA enrollment marketplaces, they're showing that last year it basically hit like insane numbers, and now they're trying to kill the program, right? So this is our premium tax cuts or tax credits and the Medicaid and Medicare. So government spends significantly less on premium tax credits than both Medicaid and Medicare, just because they're trying to argue that these tax cuts matter. They're trying to kill the program. And this is the thing. This is one of the arguments. I saw Adam Mockler talk about this. I've seen Destiny talk about this. I've seen Nasser Erdai talk. Again, a lot of the alt media, that's who I consume most of my information from them. And of course, finding my own, finding your own information is always more important. But I do love to hear the opinions of these other people. And one of the things that I think they really hit on really super well is that in Trump 1, he was like, oh, we're going to get rid of Obamacare. We're going to get rid of the ACA. He calls Obamacare. We're going to get rid of Obamacare, and we're going to replace it with something better. And they never did that. They didn't do it. And so now we're just trying to kill it. We're not even trying to, we don't even have a plan to replace it with something better. We just want it gone. And I just want to remind everyone that while all of this is going on, this is what the president's doing. Okay? This is what the president and his goons are doing. Right now, in the moment, you're losing. You're seeing drastic increases in your premiums. You're seeing drastic increases or the loss of SNAP benefits. This is what the president and his cronies are doing right now. They're doing this. Okay, they're doing this. This is what they're doing. Okay, all of this is happening right now, or not right now. All of this was happening at midnight, whenever all of this shit came to light. So keep that in mind for any of you MAGA hats coming in here to, at me. I just want to point out, you might be angry and you might be blaming people, but let's look at what the president of the United States was doing right as those benefits were dying. He doesn't give a fuck, and he'll go and scream on True Social about how it's all the Democrats' fault. He don't care. He don't care about you. He doesn't. He wants to be rich. He wants to be powerful. He doesn't give a fuck about the common people. All right. We've been going for, about an hour and a half. I want to hit on these last few things, and then we're going to talk about, wow, Aaron, you talked for an hour and a half. What am I supposed to do with all this information? I'm not going to Alex Jones you and just say, well, I just want you to have the information. No, I'm going to give you tools, methods, means to go out and do something about it. So let's just review real quick what we went over. Okay, so the government shutdown is significantly driven by policy fight over the continuing enhanced ACA marketplace premium tax credits, which again we just saw we can still see they cost less than the other programs. So it's a non-argument that, oh well, we can afford to do it. We can absolutely afford to do it. They're just choosing not to. Okay, those credits will I guess at this point have expired. Millions of people that rely on them are now facing large premium hikes and or could lose eligibility. In parallel, a court has ordered the government to continue paying. Oh, my nose bleeding. We're getting a lot of nosebleeds lately. I don't think so. Maybe okay. So in parallel, the court has ordered the government to continue paying SNAP benefits using emergency funds, and a coalition of states have sued the federal government, arguing the decision to withhold SNAP's fund is unlawful, which it is. Not that this madman cares about following the law, but let's sue them and make sure that they do, or try to hold them accountable. Right? I think it's good that over half the union came together and was like, "No, fuck you." Okay. On the ground, people are buying ACA marketplace plans, and they're already seeing notices of substantial premium increases and are worried about what comes next, as we should all be. We should all be worried about it. So that is the news this week. That is what I want to talk about this week. There is one other thing that I think we should all talk about. At least I should bring it up. You know, it's just one of those things that probably needs to get brought up because it is a pretty important conversation. What is going on with JD Vance and Erica Kirk? I was going around and I was trying to look up stuff. I was trying to find, you know, what the hell's going on here. And I couldn't find much, but I did go and look up. I want to say, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, you can see my kids are using my, let's go, JD Vance, Erica Kirk, and I did like full speech. Because again, you see these clips, okay? You see this stuff on the news, and they show like the hug, because that's what everybody's talking about, blah, blah, blah. So what people, I guess what we fail to see, or what we fail to look at, is like the whole video. Well, I wanted to come in here and I wanted to like, okay, let's go have a gander, okay? Some of the things that I saw her say, for example, were pretty fucking wild to me, where she was like, you know, my husband's not here, but JD reminds me of him a lot. And I was like, but again, we're talking about a woman who lost her husband, and now she's out here giving these speeches, going on these podcasts. I mean, I was asking Elizabeth, you know, like if let's say this podcast blows up, I was like, are you gonna go out and start doing all this? She's like, absolutely not. And she's just as supportive of me doing this, I would argue, as I would assume Kirk's wife would be. Although I did hear, and I've not confirmed this, so take it with a grain of salt, but I did hear that apparently they weren't on great terms. I don't have anything to substantiate that, and don't take my word for it. That's just the rumor mill that going around. It was basically suggesting that the Kirks were not in a good place, and that what you saw, like Charlie spending time with his kids or whatever, was more optics than it was substance, which is one of the reasons why I would say it seems possible, because that's the MAGA movement as a whole. Like, it's all optics and zero substance. So anyways, this is the whole thing. Like I said, I wanted to get on here. I wanted to make sure that we saw the entirety of it. So the context here is that Erica Kirk is giving her speech, and then JD Vance gives his speech after, and in between, this happens. So, one of the things that I'll point out is you've seen a lot of like still shots. Whenever I first saw that, I was like, oh, okay. Like, the still shots are pretty damning. Whenever you see the hug here, it does seem a little too friendly. I don't have a single friend of mine, like, and I, you know, me and my friends hug, male and female, and none of them put their hand in my hair. None of them, no matter how close we are. That's like something that like my wife would do. That might be something. I think that's it. I think my wife's probably the only person that would like touch my head whenever we hug. And then the only other thing, and the still shots show this, is that his hands come back and like rest on her hips. And I am hyper conscious of where my hands are when I'm hugging my friends. And I'll tell you this, they don't never go to none of their hips, male or female. The pelvis is a no-go zone if you're not intimate with each other. So again, I am just saying, even with the context, shit doesn't look great. Especially whenever you take into account some of the things that Vance himself has said regarding his own wife. You know, just grains of salt, okay? Grains of, take it all with a grain of salt. Anyways, I need to wrap up, so we're gonna go talk about the thing that we always talk about every single time we hop on here. We talk about, okay, we say, okay, what can I be doing, Aaron? You've talked about all this stuff. What am I supposed to do with all this information? Well, let me tell you what you can do with all of this information, okay? You and me, we're going to walk down and I'm going to show you what we can do. Oh yeah, you should definitely go by. I love that I have this politics thing and like all my recent gun lookups are in here as well. So, but we're going to talk about what you can do, okay? And one of the first things that you can do is get on 5 calls. Sorry, I just want to get the tabs open because I always want to share the tabs whenever we talk about this stuff. So 5 calls. What is 5 calls? Everybody ask. If you watch the show, you already know what 5 calls is. If you're new to the show, let me explain. 5 calls is an app that you get on your phone. And what it does is it literally is like a one-stop shop connection to your representatives, okay? So on here, we talk about you can call governors, demand Trump use SNAP contingency funds. Because mine, you know, I'm in Texas, so of course it wants me to contact Abbott. We talk about restoring funds for life-saving SNAP and WIC benefits, right? These are people, that's where I can call my senators or my local representative. We can talk about opposing anti-vax influencer Casey Means for U.S. Surgeon General, because of course we should absolutely make sure we're calling about that. But again, it does give like a big rundown on all the things that you can do. And whenever you click into these things, it gives you a full explanation, right? You probably can't see. It gives you like a full explanation of what the issue is. And then whenever you click on who you want to call, it gives you a script. So in here, it says like, hi, my name is blank, and I'm a constituent from blank. If, and then it gives you like, if they're a Republican, I'm extremely concerned about the impact of the government shutdown on SNAP and WIC benefits for millions of Americans. I'm calling to ask the senator to immediately move to end the government shutdown by extending the ECHS credits. And then to the Democrat, I'm extremely concerned. I'm calling on the senator to demand the use of USDA contingency funds for any other use of the USDA contingency funds or any other available funding source to keep these programs running. So basically, so it puts it like this. And I like that they have a setup like this. So my guys are Republicans, so I would read if you're calling Republicans. But if you're a Democrat, then you want to make sure that they're pushing to keep the SNAP going. Because the Democrats want, the push on the Democrat side is the ACA. And then one of the things that says on here, and this is really important every time we talk about this, is if you leave a voicemail, you need to make sure you leave your full street address to ensure that your call is tallied. Why would they include that note? Let me explain. Because if you call, the offices in DC are only open from 7 to 7. If you call any other time, then you'll go to voicemail. And if you go to voicemail, you have to leave your full address or your call will not be tracked. So it's really, really important that if you call and leave a voicemail, that you leave your entire address. Okay. That's 5 calls. If you want to call. If you don't want to talk to somebody, leave a voicemail. Calling is the most effective way to get in touch with your representatives, period. It is the most effective way to get in direct contact with them, short of going to their office. Okay, showing up in person is always effective. So what else can we do? Well, we can inform other Americans, and we can do that through the card campaign. One thing I think I should remind everybody: I'm not endorsed. What's the word? I'm not like backed by any of these. It's not subscribed. I'm not. I'm endorsing them, but I'm not like advertising. I'm not paid to do it. I just do it. There we go. There's a word for it, and I'm totally blanking on it right now. But basically, these people don't pay me to talk about this stuff. I just talk about it because I think it's important, especially that's what that's what this show is about. I think it's important that you have the means and methods to contact and hold accountable the people that represent you. And you should be able to do that. So, all right. So this is card campaign. So what this is, these are cards that you print out. Okay, you can pay to have them shipped to you, or you can literally, like, whenever you click on them, like, you can open. You can open these, and you can just download them and make them yourself. Okay, that's one of the things I really liked about it. Is yes, they'll send you like really like you can, and you know the money that you send them, it just helps pay for them to make more. But like you could do that, or they're so committed to this that you can just download them and make your own cards if you want. But basically, these just have, and there's a lot of them, these just have a means by which you can inform your fellow Americans on what their rights are, on what's happening out there in the world, because a lot of people don't know, they don't understand, they don't know what the Heritage Fund is, they don't know what Project 2025 is, they don't know what their constitutional rights are, they don't know that the administration is trying to like snuff those rights, they don't know a lot of those things, right? Because either some people are ignorant because they're busy, because we live in a busy world, people have busy lives, and you can't always, and I don't think it's reasonable to expect everybody to always be dialed in to what's going on. And I think for those of us that are, we have the means and methods and opportunities to inform them of what's going on, and that we should be trying to do that if we're able. That's why we do the show. I also, but even more than that, I talk about this stuff with other people. I talk about this stuff online with friends. I talk about this stuff offline at work with, I anytime that there's an opportunity to talk about, and get in the heads of people's, I try to do it. So, excuse me. So if you look over here, they actually, I found this recently, they have little guides, right? They have little guides. So this is an introverts. So they talk about they're at grocery stores or at bookstores, and they give you like tons of ways that you can go about it in legal and effective methods. And then, if you're an extrovert, this is another way. I like this one, the in-between introverts. So this is where they talk about, you can do like libraries, community centers, churches, and again, like a breakdown of ways that you can get this information out there. I think I finding that was probably one of those like really great breakthrough moments where I was like, holy crap, they actually do give you really good information on how you can put this stuff out there. And so that's the card campaign. I think it's check it out. If you're not a fan of calling, if you're not a fan, of going to their office, this is another great way for you to get involved and kind of resist the current admin and what they're doing. So, all right, next we got the obvious. I say the obvious ones. We got the big obvious ones. We got the 50-50 one. So this is exactly what it looks like. This is this one and Indivisible. These are all about going to protest. If you've got the time, the means, the methods, the will to go out and protest, then you might be asking yourself, well, Aaron, how do I get out and protest? This is how you get out and protest. You get in touch with these websites. They basically, somebody comes in and they create an event, and then you can put in your email and your zip code, and it will basically be like, hey, here's one near you. And if there's not any near you, one of the things that you're able to do is you're able to then instead go and host your own. So it's two really great ways for you to get out there and protest if that's the way that you want to go about it, right? So 5 calls, card campaign, protesting. These are the current methods we have at our disposal, okay? The last thing that I talked about recently is the Unfuck America tour. This is an all-media tour where basically, much like what Turning Point USA was doing, what Charlie Kirk did, is they go out to college campuses and they debate students on topics to try and sway the young minds of voters back over to the more liberal side of things. So rather, where Charlie Kirk was pushing ultra-conservatism and Christian nationalism, the Unfuck America tour is pushing, more liberalism and kind of that pragmatic progressive ideals that we talked about early on. So this is a great one that you can come here and you can, put in your information, and they'll tell you whenever there's stuff that's close to you. If you want to go to an event, you can buy tickets. They sell merch. And of course, you can always come in and volunteer or donate. They have a lot of great all media creators. Obviously, the biggest headline is Destiny. But if you go down this list, I mean, they have some really great people out here. Been Brian Shapiro, Camp Callouts, and out there. Corey Magyar. I love Dom Henderson. She's great. We go further down. We start getting into Not So Erudite goes out there. Logix. Where's the other one? Oh yeah, Maddie's Hot Take. I actually recently started watching them. The Soy Pill. I really love the Soy Pill. Great guy. At least his show is great. I assume he's a great guy. And then of course we have Z. She's the person that basically is like out there kind of pushing it really, really, really hard. So you should go check it out. One of the things I really like about it is you can go online and you can actually watch a lot of it. And it's great. It's great stuff. You can sit there and watch them, do the things. And it's certainly a great bit of entertainment to kind of see the debates. I really enjoy it because it's liberalism. They get on there, and what you have is you have a mix of kind of the MAGA far right out there trying to debate them, but you also have like hard leftist, like some like really like commie tanky leftist out there that are also trying to jump on them in these debates. And so it's one of the things that I really enjoy about it is that it's a perfect back and forth on both extremes or against both extremes that are currently at odds with each other. And so it's really good. It's good stuff. So you should check that out. So anyway, that's it. That's the end of our show. I appreciate everybody that's hopped in. I know I saw that there were a lot of people coming and going, and I appreciate everybody that came and sat and watched for however long you watched. The show has been steadily growing. Like I said, this week I kind of took it a slow roll because we had Halloween coming through, and I'm still adjusting to my new work schedule, and I had to flex it, flex a little bit this week, and so things were a little busier than they usually are. That being said, I want to make sure that I'm back on track for my regular gaming streams. For those of you who like to hang out and watch me play video games and just kind of shoot the shit, and I want to try and make sure that I'm still trying to keep everybody engaged with shorts as they come, as the topics come out. It's a lot. It's a lot. Working full time, got a full family, and then this. I don't regret it, and I'm not going to stop. I want to just let everybody know right now. This is something I'm really passionate about in the moment. It's something that I have probably thought about doing for a long time and was like, oh, why bother? And finally just said, fuck it. The worst thing that could happen is I could come on here and I could ramble for 2 hours and nobody watches. But I would hop on here and ramble anyway, or at least I would ramble in general. It's funny because it started as conversations weekly I was having with my mom, which her and I still take time to talk. Probably not as much as whenever we were hopping on the show together. So I do try to, but we check in with each other every day, and she's doing really well. And yeah, I'm really glad that I'm doing this. Anyway, kind of a sentimental moment. I've got to go take my ribs out of the smoker and let them rest. And we've got to make sides, and it's time to eat. So again, thank you everybody for showing up. I will catch you all next time.